Hello, I'm Carrie from the Saranac Clarksville District Library, and we are going to make pine cone flower art as part of our 2020-2021 fall and winter adult programming. And you should have in your kit that you've picked up from the library a wood plaque, 4 pine cones, a paintbrush, 3 different colors of acrylic paint, a tacky glue, and a piece of twine or burlap. And according to your kit instructions, you should have already prepared your wood plaque, which will be similar to this one. Our supplies may vary slightly. I prepared mine with white acrylic paint and just brushed it on dry to give it an antique look. Okay. And you can see the sample here. This sample I did at home on my own, and we are going to do something similar, except we're using 4 pine cones instead of 5. The supplies that you'll need from home is a sharp tool, something like these, pliers, scissors might work, a garden tool, this is a jewelry tool, and some twigs from your yard for our stems of our pine cones. And our first step, I'm going to put this to the side, is we're going to take our pine cones and we are going to take it apart down far enough where it resembles a flower. And this is the hardest part of this. And what you do is take your tool and you just go as far down close to the stem of the pine cone as you can and break it. Twist it and pull it. It actually kind of works better. And we could touch it up as we before we're finished and ready to paint. This is messy, and you can see I'm just pulling it apart. And you'll want to take down that center part too as you go. These were bought-in pine cones, so you don't have to worry about cleaning them or worry about bugs. So. I'm going to do just one more row on this one. I'm going to clean up that middle, just like so. I think that looks pretty good. A little hanging piece. piece there. So that's our first one. That's what it looks like. You can see. And so you're going to continue to do that to your other 3 pine cones. Okay, so we are back to move on to our next step. So you should have continued to finish your other pine cones like I did here. You can see that I've done mine. And our next step then is to paint our pine cones with our 2 colors, and the green color of course is for the stems, but if you wanted to paint flower green you could. So this is probably more than likely going to take at least 2 coats. So I'm starting with my lighter color, and I'm going to paint my entire pine cone like I did in this sample, but you can leave the middle part brown if you want it to look more natural looking. I personally like the full, so that's what I'm going to do with these. And you'll want to decide how many pine cones you want painted in each color. You don't have to do 2 and 2, or you could do 3 and 1. Or if you choose you don't like one of the colors we've chosen for you, that's fine too. The hardest part of doing this is getting all the way inside the pine cone so you have good coverage, but if you don't like that look, you can do this however you want. Cover as much as the pine cone as you want. Get a little bit more paint here. And then I'm going to turn it over and just fill some of this in. This is where it starts to get messy, and it might take it to dry one time before coming back and finishing it. This is fast drying acrylic paint, so you can see how I'm doing that to get in the grooves there. gonna go ahead and let this one dry and then come back and touch it up. Actually, it has pretty good coverage, so as far as needing more additional coats, but I think it's gonna need a touch up in some of the areas I'm unable to reach with it being totally wet. So I'm going to let this dry and I'll move on to another pine cone. So you continue to do that, and then we'll come back and touch them up. Okay, so after your first coat of paint on your pine cones, and you've allowed it to dry, and come back and touch up some of the areas that didn't get fully covered. As you can see, like down in here, want some more paint. Just go back through and touch it up, or put another full coat on if you choose, which I am going to do with the yellow. Just go through it and touch up any of the areas that you want, or do a full second coat, and then we're going to let that dry before coming back and gluing our flowers onto our wood plaque. So after you've let your flowers, pinecone flowers, dry, and I've touched up with a smaller paintbrush that I had on hand down in the crevices because I wanted full coverage that I talked about earlier. Play with the arrangement of your 4 pine cones on your wood plaque, and see how you like it best, which is what I've done, and I'm ready to glue with tacky glue the pinecone flowers to my wood plaque. So I'm going to start with the top one. I was actually running out of glue here, so I made a little pile of it so I could just get a bunch on there. And you should be able to feel the glue starting to work. Just maybe put a little pressure on your pine cones. Don't worry about any glue showing because we're going to come back at the end after it's dried, after we do our stems. And we can touch up any areas where you can still see the glue. I feel like I need more glue on this one, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna let that dry. And while we're letting that dry, we can paint some of our twigs that we picked up from our yard. And I'm just gonna choose some, and I'm gonna do a light coat of green paint. On a few twigs. If you don't want to use twigs, you don't actually have to even put a stem on there. You can paint a stem if you choose. I don't know which ones I'm going to use yet, or I'll even use a full twig, but I'm just going to go ahead and paint them. Paint 4 or 5 of them now as I'm waiting for the pine cone flowers to dry on our plaque. And it may take, you know, an hour or two for that tacky glue to take hold, so we can take a break and come back and finish the stems in a little bit. So the next step after we've finished letting our pinecone flowers dry on our plaque and we've painted our sticks, I applied glue to the back of the sticks like so, and I've placed them on areas of my plaque where I wanted my stems to show, like this. And I'm letting that dry. This is all on preference, however you want your art to look like. So I'm going to let that dry, and I'm taking some twine, and once it dries, I'm going to tie this in a bow. And trim it, and then I will glue it on our stem down at the bottom. This is all preference. You don't have to use the twine if you don't want. If you'd rather not tie it in a bow, you just want to make a little strip around it, however you choose to do that final step. And we'll come back after I do that and show you what it looks like at that. So I applied the bow, and that's the final product. did decide I'm gonna let it dry overnight. And you can see, like up in here where you can see the tacky glue a little bit. Tomorrow, after I let it dry overnight, I'm just gonna take a little bit of my paint, and I'm gonna use the white that I antiqued this with. I'm just gonna go through and touch that up, but you could also use your lighter color or the color of your flowers. Just put a little bit on your brush and just go through like this and touch that up so that when you're hanging it, you can't see that tacky glue. And that would be our finished product.